So like I had done a while back when I was like the comic review post credit scene, the reason why I called that video that was due to the fact that not I think I was might have even been all of them you hadn't seen before. I don't know why I'm saying it so weird like that, but basically it was books that I was trying to finish up a book, or a book came in late from the library. I was like, okay, let's put these books in, and then before I go to the next set of books, I'll read these up. That's exactly what happened this time. Just kind of in the middle, I had one more book that they came in a bit late, and I wanted to finish that up, and then like before I get to this set of the books, so I checked out a few more from the library. The reason for why I do that is because, again, I'll explain it. The way I do the library, the books I'll be reading for the next few weeks videos, the way I do that is one time it'll be like, oh, I recently bought, I work with the same three authors. I got everything by Jim Zub from Image Comics. I know it's weird that I just do that one publisher, but that's the way I am. I mean, this is also kind of a weird thing that I do, but it's the way I am. I got everything by Jim Zub, and I also got everything by David F. Walker and Emma Rios is that example, because she's more an artist than an author. But and I'll check out the library has for those authors, and that will be that from. I used to just do both. It'd be that and like something with Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor's not written a single thing from Image, so I just put that in there. But I still want to read something by him. But now I do it as the Tom Taylor set plus Jay Stevens and Gerard Way, all these authors who haven't done anything for Image. I do that as one set, and then the next set will be again the books from Image, but the authors from Image, but any publisher, of course, like Marvel, DC, Dark Horse. When it comes to the library comics, I'm not picky at all about what I collect, what I remember when I'm reading, as you will soon see here. So that's kind of why I called it post credit scenes, because I got one of the books that was taking forever to come in because it was a well sought after book. Like everyone was reading it. It's a popular book, so it took a little while for it to come in. Finally came in, and then I was right at the tail end of the Tom Taylor set, miscellaneous set, and then there we go. Okay, super long intro over. Let's get right onto it. First up is Hercules, Prince of Power. This is one that's actually in my personal collection, and it was a gift from a Instagram follower. I'm going to say that because I don't think he's technically subscribed to my YouTube channel. I could be wrong, but I'm just going to say Instagram follower. This, along with, ironically enough, one of the books you'll be seeing, he gave me the Batman Year One. He gave me the actual issues, like the original issues that came out back in 1986 of Batman Year One. That was a 4-part miniseries. That was they took place in the Batman ongoings, but it was Year One miniseries. Those original issues, which was awesome. And then he also gave me that Hercules slab you see right there, and also a while ago the Spider-Man slab that you see there too. Very generous. Every now and then he does it once a year, but it's generous. Like even once a year is like more than it should be, if you will. Now this one, the first issue when I read this, I had read it right after I read that X-Men book that I think I talked about on here. I'm not 100% sure. The Brood Saga. That I gave up 2 issues, like what, 3 or 4 issues in. It was the Epic Collection, because I was just so damn sick of just Chris Claremont's incessant dialogue balloons and text and text everywhere where it could be, and the narration boxes and the word balloons. I know a comic from 1982 is going to have a more dialogue than something from 2017, but still, it's like, damn, that's a lot. Even 10 years later, but still, it's like, damn, that's a lot. Even for 1982, it's a lot. And if you want to know what I like for 80s comics, read the first issue of this. That's exactly what I like. Not incessant narration. Have a narration, you need it. I understand you needed it back then because it was still those days of comics where they didn't quite know. They kind of had to not talk down to the readers, obviously, but like how to explain certain things and like the artwork, or just it was the way comics were back then. Now, of course, I do like. Side note, I do like Chris Claremont's X-Men. I think it was just because I don't know what it was, but maybe it was just the issues themselves weren't too great. I could be wrong, but I do like Chris Claremont's X-Men. The first Epic Collection is really good. Like that was I was hooked. And again, actually, did I finish all of that? I don't know if I did, but it was back. I want to say back during the pandemic, and that was one of the things that kept me going was reading those old issues of X-Men and just like hey, you know what? We may be in lockdown, but I have this to read. It was like one of those kinds of moments. So I do have a special place in my heart for Chris Claremont X-Men, of course. But this one, as it went along, I kind of got sick of the space stuff. I don't think space and Hercules mixed too well. I still enjoyed it though. I still will check out more Bob Layton comics because of that one issue. Overall, I give this like a 6 out of 10. Solid 6. 6.5. So I'm glad I have it in my personal collection because it's a good example of why I reread comics too. I would say like maybe like a year or so from now, maybe even less, I probably will give Hercules a second chance, and then maybe it'll go up from a 6.5 to a 7.5. That's usually what happens. It's incredible the amount of comics I've reread and completely changed my mind about them, usually for the better. Anyways, moving on. Captain Marvel, Volume 1 by The Omen by Alyssa Wong. Now, Captain Marvel, I don't hate it, the comics, as much as everyone else does. In fact, the more people talk shit about it, the more it interests me. Not because I want to read it now, be like, oh my god, their critics are wrong. No, I understand why the character is criticized, but it's like, damn, like comics and like comics can get that bad kind of thing. But this one was pretty good. This one was at least kept my interest. Kind of forgettable. A good way to summarize this in just one sentence, 3 words, is fun but forgettable. Batman Year One. I just said how I will read a book a second time and my mindset will become completely changed for the better usually. That in no small part happened with Batman Year One. When I read it for the first time, I was really disappointed that it was more Batman and his friend Jim Gordon Year One, because that's exactly what this book is. It is, I would honestly say, it's more Jim Gordon than Batman at times. And I really did not like that the first time I read this book, but the second time, like, I really enjoyed it. It felt like Batman's Sin City at times, because of the descriptive dialogue that Frank Miller has. And this is one prime example where I don't mind the incessant narration. Here's a good example. Yeah, it's a good example. Like a lot of narration, a lot of characters talking to you. You know, exactly what narration is. What I just described, like you guys didn't know what narration was. But it's so descriptive, as Frank Miller is known to be. And if I'm reading a comic from like early 80s. I would not mind it. I would not mind it as much that it was being written by Frank Miller. Because Frank Miller knew how to change the game. He knew how people were reading comics and they were kind of getting sick of the same old, and he brought something new to the table, and comics were completely changed because of him. And this is a great example of that's not. This is a good example of, even though that's the case, it's not dated either. Like, you don't go back to this one, you're like, yeah, I can understand people like it, because you were reading comics back then, you had read nothing like it before. But now that we have a lot like it before, because, people are inspired by Frank Miller and did their own Batman Year One, and then now going back to this, it's kind of dated. No, that's not the case here. Like, this is like a solid 10 out of 10. It is a 10 out of 10. There's no doubt about it. Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. This is a good example. This is a good. This volume completely summarizes how I feel about these series as a whole. It's flawed, but mostly enjoyable. Not every issue is as good as the last one, but I still do think this is a bit underrated. However, this reread, I don't feel that as strongly as I used to. We Only Find Them When They're Dead is I'm glad I reread it, but I have no idea what I just read. Very confusing, but very good. The artwork is insanely good, and technically Al Ewing has done something from Image Comics, by the way. It was like if it's a 5-page story for an anthology, I don't count that. Now, for the book my library had finally gotten, it was interloaned, but they finally was checked out on my account, and that is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, a book I've been dying to read ever since the first issue came out, and I believe it was like it must have been doing numbers because Comic Tom was talking about it. It was like the hottest comics of the week. It was like the first issue was like you could get it, you couldn't get it anywhere from under. I shouldn't say that because I don't know how much it was, but it was one of those books that if you had it, you could resell it for like at least triple what you paid for it. Like $4 is what you paid for it. You can at least get like triple that at that time. I don't know if that's still the case because I think it was one of those comics that sold so well and was so popular that it had already been auctioned for a movie. I could be wrong, but this is probably my pick of like all these books because I'm not including because Hercules is the only one that wasn't. Yeah. So Hercules is really the only one that was from before. All the rest of these, not only have you not seen these, but you haven't seen them, so I don't include them as part of the big stack over there, the big stack that I showed you guys before with Dark Knights of Steel and Monkey Prince, that stack of books. I don't include that as part of it, technically. So this is probably my pick of the week. This is only 6 issues, but it does leave you wanting. It has a conclusive ending, but it still leaves you with wanting more because of how well the characters are written, how invested you are in the story and the characters and the setting and just everything. I'm being very vague about it because I dare not spoil a single thing about this comic because I had no idea what this comic was about going in at all, like nothing. I just knew it was really popular and I wanted to read it. Going in blind is the best thing for this comic. It's one of those comics that's like a 4.3 out of 5 on Goodreads, which is insane, especially for a modern comic. It deserves that 4.3. Like, it's not one of those things where I'm like, well, no. It's not a Nubia real one, where that's like, what, like a 4.7? It's ridiculously high on there. Dwellings by Jay Stevens. Almost became my pick of the week. However, not every issue is as good as the last one is. The best way to describe this book, because again, I do want people going in blind, is Creepshow, a modern day Creepshow. The artwork in here, I'm going to explain very little about this comic again, but I do want to mention these few things. The artwork is meant to look like it's all ages, and I do think it's a great aesthetic. And also a great aesthetic is they have fake comic book ads in the comic itself, which I didn't read the entire thing. Like they had like this here, like how it was back in the day, like back in the 50s. But very very EC Comics / Creepshow inspired, and it's not just trying to copy that; it's trying to homage it while also telling their own story. And I think that is done really well. It's kind of like a Scream of comic books in a sense for horror comics. So you have ads like that, but I didn't read the ads. That was way too much reading. But it was still nice. It was still cool to have. Like I wouldn't say that they should take that out just so the comic was a little bit shorter. And 40 pages of book flies by super quickly. There aren't a whole lot of ads in the book, so I would say it's probably more like 35, roughly. But not every story is as good as the last one was. The last one was kind of weird. The second to last one was also kind of weird, but it got more interesting as it went along. The last one I was kind of waiting for it to be over. I hate to say. But all around a must read. It is worth, wow, $35 for a hardcover. Standard size, sure, but a hardcover, yeah, it's worth every penny. Finally, I'll be reading this entire series. I'm rereading this because I want to read the entire series of The Umbrella Academy. And it, like with We Only Find Them When They're Dead, it is very confusing, but the good kind of confusing here, especially. Gerard Way is a huge fan of Grant Morrison, and it shows with The Umbrella Academy in his other books. But I think I've only read this. No, I thought there was more that he did. He done. There was, well, what wasn't there? Drawing a blank, but absolutely phenomenal stuff. And that is the last comic. And that was, how many comics was it? I'm curious. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. 8 comics reviewed in 14 minutes. All right. And yeah, I did upload this. It's actually probably it's kind of good that I uploaded this after I showed off all the reading, but I tried to finish these yesterday, but I had plans, and when I came home from said plans, I was just a little bit drunk, so I went to bed, and there was no way I was going to do that. That's fine. It wasn't like I was super far behind either, anyways. Now, there is one more thing. I can't remember what it's called. What, nothing can possibly go wrong. That, hardcover, that original graphic novel I showed off, I'll be reading that later on in the week, this week, and I'll just do a post on it on Thanksgiving. That's when I'll read it on Thanksgiving, because I know Thursday I'm not going to have as much time to read as I usually would for my days off from work. So I was treating it as like I have a day from work, so I was going to read, I was going to finish up what I didn't finish yesterday, push that off till Thursday, because I really want to get on the library stack of books today, and especially on Thanksgiving break. Again, except for Thanksgiving, that's fine. But that, as I say, is that. So, I always mention that. I know some of you guys probably don't remember that book. Hell, even I had to keep remembering what the title is called. But I just want to mention it just in case. Why not? Why not? Because it's, you never know. Could be someone that was interested in how I felt about that book, and there you go. When I do my Instagram post, I'm just going to not even acknowledge it at all, because I take the picture, obviously, because I return the books. That's why I do these comic reviews in 3 parts. I have to return books to the library, so obviously to take the picture ahead of time, and yeah, the book is still, you can see that book, because I take a picture of the spines, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to review the books, all the other books, not even acknowledge the possibly go wrong book, and see if anyone notices. No one did last time. And that's not me being like trying to expose them or anything like that. No, it's just the fact that I find it funny, and I'm not expecting people to notice that either. When I do my comic hauls, I don't talk about every single comic on there like I do on here. Usually what I'll do is talk about the ones I've read before, because at least with one book per month, so far this year, since last August, at least one book has been one that I previously read, usually most likely from the library. The reason why I want to do that is because there's always, just in case someone's like, let's know how those are. I can immediately respond to them and say, well, Cold Spots is really good, check it out, kind of thing, and it's not just because of that, it's also because I really liked Cold Spots and Bitterroot and Wayward. Wayward was an upgrade, and so was Bitterroot, because they, rather than softcover, got the hardcover to own. But like Cold Spots doesn't have a hardcover, it's just softcover. But I liked it so much, I have my personal collection. And that is especially the case with this month's comic haul, as you'll soon see. When those come in, whenever they come in. But that, as I say, is that.